This is your USMNT Abroad weekend update from September 15th to September 17th of 2023. Hi, I'm Tim Ream, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the US Men's National Team Abroad series, where every Monday we update you on how the Yanks did abroad over the weekend. A channel favorite. Now, before we even start, keep in mind that it will be the case for many of the US Men's National Team players abroad that their minutes could have been affected by the traveling back from the United States Men's National Team camp. I'm saying that now because I won't be mentioning that during every single player's section as a context for why their minutes are down. So if that player was in camp, assume that might have been one of the reasons why they were subbed off early or they just didn't play at all. Not all the cases, but some of them. Also, don't forget to drop a like because I told you to do so. That might not be enough to get you to hit the like button, will it? So just hit the like button because it's the right thing to do. Okay, let's start the episode. Okay, why don't we start with the top 5 leagues? So let's go to England and start with the English Premier League. The first player I was going to talk about would be Matt Turner from Nottingham Forest, but they played this Monday, so there's no update on that. The only thing I will say is there are rumors that Matt Turner could get benched, which doesn't make much sense since he made no mistakes. But let me know in the comment section down below, if you're watching this after that game, did Turner get benched or not? For that same match, which is against Burnley, Luka Koleosho is also expected to play for Burnley. As for Ethan Horvath, he might just have to leave Nottingham Forest. He's now the third option. He might just never play for them, so he needs to get a loan. Some European leagues still have their transfer windows open, so he could find a place maybe in Turkey. Who knows? If he stays in England, he ain't playing. But now a player that did play over the weekend, Chris Richards from Crystal Palace. On Saturday, Richards started and played the full 90 minutes for Crystal Palace during their 3-1 loss to Aston Villa. So Richards started because Mark Yehii was not available, and I did not watch this specific match, so I cannot give you an honest opinion in regards to his overall performance. What I will say is I saw a lot of people say that Chris Richards was very solid, but got unlucky because he conceded a penalty kick at added time when the game was still 1-1. So as I said, I didn't watch the entire match, but I did see that specific play. And to me, it's not a penalty kick. He goes for the ball and he hits the ball first, then he goes on to hit the Aston Villa player after. So if that was the only bad moment that he had during this specific match, then I would say he did fine. He just got unlucky with one bad call. At the end of the day, I'm just happy that Chris Richards got minutes. Next up would have been Tyler Adams from Bournemouth, but he's still recovering from injury, so he's not available for them yet. They tied Chelsea 0-0 over the weekend, which again, that would be considered an upset, but take into account that Chelsea is essentially a mid-table team right now, right? They finished 12 last season, and now they're 14th. The team is really not very good. Think about it. They keep changing coaches, and it's still the same crap. But this is not a Chelsea fan channel, so I'm not going to talk about that. So why don't we skip on Tyler Adams as he's still recovering from injury, and let's talk about Austin Trusty from Sheffield. On Saturday, Trusty started off the bench and was subbed in the 86th minute for Sheffield during their 2-1 loss to Tottenham in the English Premier League. The good here is that Austin Trusty got minutes. The bad is that he was subbed in with roughly 5 minutes left to help hold a 1-0 lead, and Sheffield ended up losing 2-1. The goals weren't really his fault, but still, that's not good. It's a team sport, so if you're on the field, you do take some blame. And again, you were subbed in with 5 minutes left with a 1-0 lead, and your team ends up losing 2-1. That's simply not good. I'm not blaming him, but he's also not blameless. Next up is Tim Ream and A-Rob from Fulham. On Saturday, Ream started and went the full 90 minutes for Fulham during their 1-0 win over Luton Town. So Tim Ream, a center back, helped his team get a clean sheet. That's a win, even though it's Luton Town and they're essentially a EFL Championship team disguised as a Premier League team. As for A-Rob, he was not available due to a minor injury that he was already dealing with during the US Men's National Team camp, which is why he also didn't face Oman. Now let's go to Italy, to the Serie A country that is better than England according to Christian Pulisic because it has this thing called the sun. I mean, having the sun is an advantage, in my opinion, coming from someone that lives in Florida. On Saturday, Christian Pulisic started and played 56 minutes for AC Milan on their embarrassing and historical 5-1 loss to Inter Milan in the Serie A. Most of the Milan side was bad, if not everyone almost, and that includes Christian Pulisic. He was extremely passive, only passing the ball back. He literally ghosted the entire game. Not the entire game, the 56 minutes that he was there. It was a poor performance from Christian Pulisic and Milan. So unfortunately, Pulisic brought his poor US men's national team form from the September camp to this massive clash. Inter also did a great job nullifying Milan on the flanks. Despite the goal, even Rafael Leão, a world-class winger in my opinion, was extremely ineffective in the match. You see, I have one thing I need to say about Pulisic. We need the old Pulisic back, the one that steps up against big opponents, like, you know, in the 2021 Champions League, where Chelsea ended up being the champions. Not the Christian Pulisic from these days that only steps up against weak opposition, like Mexico, Canada, England, Bologna, and some weak CONCACAF nations. We need that Pulisic that steps up against Champions League contenders. As for Yunus Musa in the same match, he was subbed in at the 86th minute, and by then the match was already 4-1, so there's not that much to talk about. Now, they also mentioned that Pulisic might come off the bench during the midweek for Milan. I'm not going to look into that too much. He might just be being rested. Who knows if he's being benched by Chukwueze? I don't think he will. I think it's a fight for that right wing position, but I still think Pulisic is the starter on the right wing. Still in Italy, let's talk about the Juventus boys, Weston McKennie and Timothy Weah, because Weston McKennie had himself a game over the weekend. He was truly fantastic. On Saturday, McKennie started and played 72 minutes for Juventus during their 3-1 win over Lazio. Timothy Weah came off the bench at the 72nd minute for Weston McKennie. They both played as right wingbacks. This was also Weston McKennie's 100th appearance for Juventus, and he did put on a show. He was very good. He was also involved in all 3 goals. For the 3rd goal, he even provided the assist of Vlahovic with a fantastic long pass. He showed a bit of what he did on that match against Oman, but he was being played out of position as a right wingback. He left the match with Juve fans applauding him. You see, they're in this very toxic relationship where one week the Juventus fans hate Weston McKennie, the other weeks they make love. And this weekend, they made love. And you watch them make love, which is extremely disturbing and creepy. For this match, Weston McKennie had 32 touches, 3 chances created, 1 block, 2 clearances, 1 interception, 3 recoveries. He won 1 out of 2 ground duels, 4 out of 5 aerial duels, along with getting an assist and being involved in 2 other goals. A fantastic performance. So now let's leave Italy and go to Germany and talk about the Americans in the Bundesliga. So the first one I would talk about is Giovanni Reina from Borussia Dortmund, but he's still not back for Dortmund. He's recovering from injury, but he's already training and he's expected to make it to their bench next weekend. So let's skip on Gio Reyna and now let's go to Brendan Aronson from Union Berlin and Kevin Paredes from Wolfsburg because they clashed over the weekend. Sorta. On Saturday, Brendan Aronson started off on the bench and came in at the 72nd minute for Union Berlin during their 2-1 loss to Wolfsburg in the Bundesliga. As for Kevin Paredes, he actually stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for Wolfsburg. We're done with those two, so let's go to John Brooks from Hoffenheim. On Saturday, Brooks started and played the full 90 minutes for Hoffenheim during their 3-1 win over Cologne in the Bundesliga. For this match, John Brooks had 9 clearances, 8 headed clearances, 2 interceptions, 11 recoveries. He won only 1 out of 5 ground duels, but he did win 1 out of 2 aerial duels. And listen, while Miles Robinson is getting owned by Leonardo Campana in MLS, he continues to get called in. But John Brooks can't even get a single look while consistently starting for a good Bundesliga side. Again, because Greg Berhalter's criteria right here is not based on performance, it's just personal. He just won't admit it. Next up is Joe Scally and Pifak from Borussia Mönchengladbach. On Sunday, Scally and Pifak both started for Gladbach during their 3-3 draw with Darmstadt. I think I got their name right. Joe Scally played 45 minutes and was subbed off at halftime, and Pifak played the full 90 minutes. But just for context here, Gladbach had a disaster of a first half. They ended the first half by losing 3-0. For that reason, changes had to be made, and Joe Scally was subbed off right at halftime. Pifak, though, he stayed for the entire match and he scored the first goal of this amazing 3-0 deficit comeback. Sure, it was a tap-in, but someone had to tap it in. And that was Pifak. I'm just glad he's back to scoring in the Bundesliga, and that was his first goal for his new club, Borussia Mönchengladbach. Next up is Paxton Aronson from Eintracht Frankfurt. On Saturday, Paxton started off on the bench and was subbed in at the 80th minute for Eintracht during their 1-1 draw with Bochum in the Bundesliga. Not a lot of minutes, but it's good to see him consistently get a few minutes off the bench in the Bundesliga at such a young age. Lastly, we have Leonard Maloney from a team that I really struggle to pronounce their name. I'm still learning, bear with me. On Sunday, Maloney started and played the full 90 minutes for Heidenheim during their 4-2 win over Werder Bremen in the Bundesliga. I definitely butchered their name, but I would say in 2 to 3 weeks, I'll get it right. Remember, the Gladbach took a while? I'll get this right. Now let's go to Spain in La Liga and talk about Luca de la Torre from Celta de Vigo. On Saturday, Luca de la Torre started despite the broken nose he got at the US men's national team camp and played 77 minutes for Celta de Vigo during their 1-0 loss to Mallorca in La Liga. And that's it for Spain. So we're going to leave Spain and travel to France. Let's talk about Fulham Balogun that plays in Liga for Monaco. On Sunday, Balogun started off on the bench and was subbed in around the 66th minute for Monaco during their 2-2 draw with Lorient in Liga. I said this before, and I'll say it again. He is our best 9, and it's really not debatable. Pepi and Sargent are the backups. The skill set that Balogun has is well ahead of those 2 players and every other 9 we have. So Greg Berhalter has to persist on Balogun until he gets it right. If utilized correctly, it's even debatable, I guess, you could debate this, that Balogun might even be the best forward we have, even if you count the wingers. He's up there with Christian Pulisic and many others. So to me, the debate on who's the starting 9, it's still clear that it's Balogun. For this match, Balogun scored Monaco's second goal, and it was a very nice goal. He showed lots of ability in tight spaces in the box to cut to his left foot and hit a rocket with his weak foot to score for Monaco their second goal. And the goal was scored at the 69th minute. Nice. But just look at this. He only played 40 minutes total for Monaco, and he has already scored a goal. For this match, Balogun had 1 chance created, 4 shots, 1 of them being on goal, 1 off target, and 2 blocked. He was involved quite a bit for a guy that just played a little bit over 20 minutes. I guess the Monaco coach might already know how to utilize Balogun, which is not the case for all coaches. Okay, we're done with the top 5 leagues. Is France even still considered a top 5 league? I'm not sure. But anyhow, let's go to the Netherlands. Let's talk about the Eredivisie, and let's start with the boys from PSV, which is Malik Tillman, Ricardo Pepi, and Serginho Dest. On Saturday, Dest started and played 63 minutes for PSV during their 4-0 win over NEC. Pepi came off the bench around minute 83 and scored off a penalty kick later in the game. But we'll talk about that in a second because it was a bit controversial. For the same match, Malik Tillman stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes. Serginho Dest also had a fun moment where he almost got an assist off a Rabona kick cross. He could have just crossed it, but it's Serginho Dest. So he did exactly what I would expect him to do. Do a Rabona kick when you can do a regular cross. And I loved it. Okay, I loved what Dest did. But now let's talk about Ricardo Pepi's controversial penalty kick. You see, there was some drama there, and L3 fans were angry because Pepi took it instead of Chucky Lozano, which clearly made Lozano frustrated. I mean, it is his return to PSV and he wanted to score, but Pepi still took the penalty and did not let Lozano take it, despite the fans wanting Lozano to take it. After the match, the PSV coach confirmed that if Luuk de Jong was not on the field, Ricardo Pepi is the designated penalty kick taker. So my overall opinion on this is that it's such a shame that Chucky Lozano and L3 fans were starting unnecessary drama for their own selfish reasons. Pepi was the designated penalty kick taker, and that should be respected, regardless of the score, regardless of the opponent, regardless of Chucky Lozano being back with the team that he was very successful in the past. Now, if there's one thing for them to be pissed off, there was a moment that Pepi could have passed it to Chucky Lozano for Lozano to score, but Pepi tried to score and he obviously didn't. That was probably the biggest one because Pepi was on a one-on-one situation with the goalkeeper and he could have passed the ball. But again, why be reasonable when you can be unreasonable? So the other 2 players in the Eredivisie are Taylor Booth and Jordi Mihailovic, and they both didn't play over the weekend. Mihailovic stayed on the bench the full 90 minutes for AZ Alkmaar. Once again, his minutes have been terrible. He's really struggling in the Eredivisie. And then the other one, Taylor Booth, he didn't play because he's still recovering from injury. Now let's leave the Netherlands and go to an island in Europe called England for the second division of England, the EFL Championship players. The first one would have been Josh Sargent, but he's still recovering from injury. He's out. He's not playing for Norwich. He should be out for maybe at least a month or 2. So the other player is Haji Wright from Coventry. On Friday, Haji Wright started and played 75 minutes for Coventry during their 1-1 draw with Hull City in the EFL Championship, and there's not much more I can add here. Still in the UK, but in Scotland, we have Cameron Carter-Vickers from Celtic. He's still injured, didn't play, and it's unclear when he will be back. Now let's go to Belgium. And we're going to start with Gaga Slonina from Eupen in Belgium. On Sunday, Gaga Slonina started and played the full 90 minutes for Eupen during their 3-1 loss to Standard Liège. I can't do it every weekend, but eventually I'll dive into it statistically. How is Gaga Slonina performing in Belgium? For the same match, Marlon Fossey started and went the full 90 minutes for Standard Liège as a right wing back. After that, we have Mark Mckennie from Genk, and on Saturday, Mark Mckennie was not available for Genk this weekend. I found no reports of an injury, so it's likely due to travel with the US men's national team. Last but not least, we have Sam Vines from Antwerp and Brian Reynolds from Westerlo, because they faced each other over the weekend, sorta. On Friday, Sam Vines was not available for Antwerp during their 3-0 win over Westerlo, as he's injured. I guess he also won't play in the Champions League, even though Antwerp qualified to the Champions League, because his club forgot to register him, or something like that. No, seriously, it's very bizarre. Antwerp messed it up and forgot, or something like that, to register Sam Vines in the Champions League group stage, which truly sucks. In the same match, Brian Reynolds started and played 81 minutes for Westerlo during this loss. Now, one quick thing, I'm not going to update you guys on Eric Palmer-Brown this weekend. He plays for Panathinaikos in Greece. That's where he's playing right now. But we do have a great interview with Eric Palmer-Brown coming out this week. It's 2 episodes. It's another mini-series. He was very open and honest about the U.S. men's national team, soccer abroad, Greg Berhalter, even private conversations that they had. So trust me, it's a great episode. You don't want to miss it. Keep an eye out for it. It'll probably be out on Wednesday, part 1, and on Thursday, part 2. You're really not going to want to miss this one. Last but not least, we have the Italian second division, the Serie B of Italy, with Tanner Tessman that plays for Venezia, and obviously Christopher Lund that plays for Palermo. We're not going to cover them every single weekend, but since they just were at the U.S. men's national team camp, I feel like it was worth going through a quick update on how they're doing. On Friday, Tanner Tessman started and was subbed off at halftime for Venezia during their 1-0 win over Spezia in the Serie B. Venezia is off to a hot start in the Serie B, and they will likely fight for promotion this season. As for Christopher Lund, on Saturday, Lund came off the bench for Palermo during their 1-0 win. He played for the US men's national team during the midweek, so it makes sense that he was finally benched. And just like Venezia, Palermo is off to a hot start, and they will also be fighting for promotion. So that's the update for now on them. I'll keep you guys posted on other weekends, probably not every weekend, but a few of them. Lastly, we have Johnny Cardoso from Internacional. Internacional did not play this weekend, and they played during the midweek, but Johnny wasn't available. He's still recovering from injury. He's expected to be back soon, before the end of the month, for sure. All right, everyone, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to drop a like before you go, and don't forget that we have an amazing interview with Eric Palmer-Brown coming out this week. And for the following weeks, we have other great guests, and one of them will be no one less than Breck Shea. Thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.